professional services businesses are working harder than ever. They need capacity, capability, and high trust partners they can rely on. So we polled experts and gathered insights from leaders across our network and put together this small business success stack. It's a series of tips from 4 different types of partners that every small business benefits from. So today I'm talking with Ade Lawal, president and owner of Express Professionals of Philadelphia. And his 2 tips, number 1, always be recruiting. And number 2, it can be lonely being a business owner. Take care of your health and take care of yourself. Ade, welcome.
Thank you.
And I'd love to hear just a couple tips that you might offer business owners or just business leaders on in it from your years of experience.
Well, for the last 13 years, we've been helping businesses of all sizes find talent. And I think my biggest tip is to always be recruiting. Don't wait until you have a position open, to talk to people that may be a good fit for your organization. When you run into good people who are looking for jobs that you think that could be a fit, but the timing isn't right, still talk to them because you never know what could happen. You want to keep a bench of talent and people you can reach out to and say, hey, I know we talked 6 months ago or a year ago. At the time, we didn't have a role open. What are you doing now? That's a better situation than, someone quit and now you got to go find somebody and you got to post a job and hope you find what you're looking for. So just always be recruiting. If you come across good talent, talk to them, even though you don't need them, because you never know when you might need somebody and have the position open. And you won't have to work as hard because you've already developed those relationships. So that's a secret tip from a recruiter. So how we get this done.
Always be recruiting. I love it. All
Always be
right.
recruiting. Yeah, NFL draft. There's always a lot of conversation about what skills they have open, what positions they need, um, you know, versus who the top talent that's available. So this is more like focusing on the top talent available. If there's a good athlete that's available, drafting that as opposed to a specific position. Obviously it's business dependent, but just the idea is you come across a good person that could be a good fit in your organization, culture wise, especially talent wise. Talk to them. We're saying 2 to 3 years on average in tenure. So depending on the size of your organization, think about how much turnover you're going to have just naturally. So have a few people in your back pocket.
I love the idea of having a long view, so it's not like we're not slotting in for the short term because short term doesn't yield that kind of difference. So you're thinking more strategically about staffing. So I appreciate.
Growing, you're going to need people, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you're a growing business, you're going to need more people. So why not continue to keep in mind, good talent for possible roles as you meet them?
So where you're headed. I love it, love it. And what else? What else might you offer? Small business owner or really just business leader?
Well, one of the challenges of being a business leader is that it's a lonely place. There's not a lot of outlets, and there's not a lot of time. So just making time to take care of yourself. For me, it's running, getting on the Schuylkill for 5 to 6 miles a couple of times a week. Gives me a chance to clear my head. If there's any issues that we're dealing with at work, that's a great time to think about them when you're alone. Come up with some good solutions. And sometimes it's also walking back and forth to and from work. Have about a 35-minute walk. So that's plenty of time to decompress and have some time to myself to, address some challenges while getting some exercise at the same time.
And I feel privileged to be speaking to you on the other half of the Philadelphia marathon that you had an opportunity to partake in. So it's particularly timely to hear you share that as a release, an opportunity to think and process. So what kind of processing happened during this half marathon yesterday?
Well, I was out there with about 35,000 of my friends, closest friends in Philadelphia, but the atmosphere was amazing. There are lots of Philadelphians that come out and support you and on the side of the road, and that just gives you a lot of energy. It's different when you're running by yourself and versus like running with thousands of people. So people of all different skill levels and different speeds, but it was nice to see the Philadelphia community come together and support all the runners who are out there.
And I'm going to digress just a little bit, but just thinking about running and finishing 13 miles, and finishing even 20. So there were runners that continued on to did 30, 30, sorry, 26. Um, what? there's commitment that comes with that. And what, if anything, would you say about committing yourself to even the running, or and how commitment might intersect with thinking about business?
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, I think in business, one of the things that we take for granted, consistency, right? If you do anything consistently, you get better at it. And so, just like with running, most of these runners, all the work is done weeks and months in advance. By the time you get out there, 13 miles doesn't seem as challenging because you've done that 4 or 5 times. You've had, 3 or 4 days a week of running for months. So it's just being prepared, committed to the process, and then the outcome seems to take care of itself. You train your muscles, you train your mind, and so when race day comes, you're prepared because you've put in the time and effort. And it's the same thing in business. You do things consistently, put in the effort, and those are the kind of things that result in businesses that stay around for a while and are successful.
Wow. Wow. Well, thank you so much for that. I appreciate your making the time, and specifically making the time, having come out of a race. I would probably have a day off today if this were me, but you talk about consistency, and I appreciate your showing up for this today. So thank you.
My pleasure. My name is Ade Lawal, and my email is ade.lawal@expresspros.com. I can also be reached on the phone at 215-893-1249. I'd be delighted to talk to anyone about finding, hiring people, and getting the best talent for their business.
The Lenserf Group is proud to be named a 2025 Inc. Power Partner. Consult, coach, or train your teams with us. lenserfgroup.com, or follow us on LinkedIn, the Lenserf Group.